I'd say when I was younger, it was more disciplined. Not now.
In comparison to now.
Not at all. Not now. You know, the way things are nowadays, the younger generation, you seem that they can't accept the word no. If that makes sense.
They can't accept rejection, essentially, is all you're trying to say.
Yeah, they can't accept the word no. So if you, how did I do? Or you didn't do very well, and they get upset. You know, and when I was a youngster, my father used to say to me, because I used to be sport mad when I was very young, well, I still am sport mad, but like participating in different sports. And if I had a bad game, for example, he might say to me, "You had one to forget." That's it.
Yeah, that sounds like a smart guy. I mean, yeah, that's the real fact of the matter. Yeah.
You know, he'd say to me, "You had one to forget. Get over it," and that was it. So I dust myself down and do it again. But now, if you say to a child, if I went up to a child and said, "You've had one to forget," God, there'd be an inquest. An inquest. For me, why did you reject my son? Oh, I haven't rejected your son. Or daughter. I've just told them that they need to buck their ideas up.
That's the truth right there. I mean, if you think about it, if you check the generations, like right now in the US as well, I've seen a lot of these things as well. In the UK, you know, you get medals for participation. But what's the point? What are you trying to? Yeah, what's the point? Either you win or you lose. People are so afraid to put that whole notion of losing. You know, when it comes to right now, the generation gap is just crazy. You know how much. A lot has changed. Social media has taken control of our lives, and we don't even realize it anymore. We're crippled because of it.
That's absolutely right, Nick. Because, as you said, you know, nowadays it seems that you get rewarded for failure. You know, for the life of me, Nick, I can't get my head around that. Perhaps I'm just getting old and morbid. I don't know. I just can't get my head around how you could be rewarded for failure.
Welcome back to the show. It is your girl Sarah and Hiba right here on Relaks Radio, and we're having a conversation about the Plymouth shooting. All of these unanswered questions that you might have about gun violence, about social media, that is what we are currently talking about, all right? So if you want to share your thoughts with us, if you want to share your opinions with us, don't be shy because we're not going to bite. All you need to do is just text us on 078-52473473. And you can also get in touch with us through our socials, which Hiba will actually tell you about.
Guys, you can get it through to us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. You can also check out our live show on YouTube and on our app, the Relaks Radio app, now available on Google, Android, and the App Store.
Exactly. That is just how to get in touch with us. So actually, you know, make sure you do that because that's going to be absolutely amazing as well. We would love to hear your thoughts and your opinions about what we are discussing. All right. Now, earlier we were talking about, you know, social media. We were talking about whether social media plays a role in gun violence. But right now we want to talk a little bit about, I actually want to talk a little bit about, you know, who exactly can own a gun in the United Kingdom. You know, what are the regulations like here in the United Kingdom? What kind of process do they have to go through to get the gun? So Hiba, why don't you tell everyone about how exactly this process works, who can actually own a gun, and the rules and regulations with regard to guns?
Yeah, so in the UK, right, you can get a gun ownership certificate from the ages of 14 to 15 upwards. However, you cannot legally buy a firearm until you are 18 years old. Now, when you want to apply for a gun owner certificate, what you would do is you would go down to your local police station, you would apply for it. It's basically like going for a job interview where Your background would obviously need to be checked. You would need two good people as references, and in some cases, the police can even use your GP, your medical practitioner, to see if you are fit and able to hold a gun. And then, in addition to this, there are only three types of guns you can actually own in the UK. I think those are a rifle, a shooting, I think like a hunting gun, and a handgun. That is it.
Yeah, exactly. And I read somewhere that the United Kingdom happens to have one of this. We happen to have the most strict regulations in terms of gun control, in terms of gun violence and whatnot, right? And maybe that's possibly why we don't see shootings, as much shootings as we see in the United States. And that is something to be that is something that we should be fortunate about, right? Especially given the fact that we have situations of gun violence, but it happens, it doesn't happen often. But even then, even when that's the case, we still need to talk about why exactly some of these regulations are important. Now he actually mentioned how you basically have to go and get a certificate from your GP, or they will consult your GP and ask, are you fit enough both physically and mentally to actually purchase a gun, to actually be in control of a gun, right? And so this was actually one of the biggest problems in the Plymouth shooting, because his gun license had been taken away because he was he was related to some assault case that happened some time back. And last year, however, they had given him his gun license back. And now this was one of the biggest questions that these people had. They were in fact outraged because they were in fact very outraged because they were thinking, look, everyone knew that he wasn't in the right mental state to actually handle a gun. He didn't have that, he wasn't fit mentally to actually be in control of a gun. However, even though that was the case, he still got the gun, and that is what resulted in this tragedy, right? And that is why currently there are checks that are being done in police stations in Devon to actually figure out why exactly this happened, right?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, and it's not just that. As you said, he was linked to an assault charge. And that in the UK, if you have any sort of criminal record, no matter what the charge is, you are immediately like you're not considered anymore for a gun charge. You will have your license revoked. You cannot, which is kind of, and to hear that he got his certificate back after he was he assaulted someone, or he was part of assaulting someone, is so astounding, because like the rules are set. You know what the rules are. The government knows the rules are. How are you just like going back on that completely? Like, he is a criminal, he committed an offense, and now he has to suffer the consequences. You can't just give him his toy back. That's not fair.
Exactly. That's absolutely true, right? And in that instance, I'm sure all of these, the relatives of these victims feel like a sense of injustice because of how exactly these things went about, right? Because if things didn't turn out the way they did, most of their relatives would be alive at this point of time, right? And something that I was thinking about also with regard to this is that we tend to have, I mean, we make ourselves proud, or we tell everyone, look, we have some of the strictest measures in the United Kingdom, we have some of the strictest measures in the world to own a gun, to own a gun, right? However, even after saying all of that, we still can't prevent situations like this from happening. Then it does show that even though we have some of the most strict regulations in the entire world, that's still not enough for gun violence, right? Because in my opinion, I just feel like you don't actually, having a gun isn't a necessity, right? Definitely not at this point of time, right? Because if you actually look back in time, and I mean, I specifically want to focus on the United States when I'm having this conversation. The reason they guns were a constitutional right at that point of time was because they were actually in danger, right? They actually had to protect themselves, because at that point of time, the United States was just forming, they were just figuring their way out, right?
Yeah.
And now we don't really need that, because the United States happens to be one of the most highly protected countries, right? So why exactly is it that people are still allowed to have guns, especially when there's so much of violence being caused, right?
I think, yeah, in the UK we only. I mean, there's like, I feel like there's a difference between in terms of guns in the UK and the US. In the UK, I'm gonna be real. The only time I hear about any instances of guns being involved is either farmers trying to shoot pests, or shooting clay pigeons, or going deer hunting, things
Yeah.
like that. But in the UK, in the US, I feel like, it's part of their constitution. I mean, it's not for us, it's
Yeah.
not. There's no like law saying, oh yeah, you have to carry a firearm, but it's right there in the constitution. You have the right to bear arms, and I feel like they've taken that so seriously over the past, like over the last 2-3 centuries that they have been formed, and it's like it's part of their culture. You hear the shootings. Like I heard somewhere, I saw like a post. I don't know if you've seen it. I think you might have. But like in America, there are some states that you go to where you can't tell the difference between fireworks and the shot of a gun, which I
Yeah.
think is so obscene, because is that how deeply ingrained into your culture that guns actually are, that it's literally a part of your culture? This is what your country is known for, guns.
Honestly, that is so true. It's like the moment someone mentions USA, the first thing that will come to your mind is, okay, shootings, gun violence. Like
Yeah.
that is literally what people remember the United States by, and it's crazy.
I
Right
mean,
now, we're yeah.
they go to their shopping centers and there is a gun store in the shop. Like, where is that coming from? What is that? What is it? Like,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and now we're actually going to head into a small break. And after that, we will be back to continue this conversation. But make sure you stay tuned because it is getting interesting. And we're going to be talking about incel culture next. So make sure you stay tuned for that as well. Welcome back to the show. We're very excited to be here and continue this conversation with you because we're having a very important conversation with regard to gun violence and how, how the lack, or rather, even though we have such strict regulations, that it sometimes still leads to situations that could have been avoided, right? That is what we're talking about. So make sure you stay tuned and make sure you share your thoughts with us on 078 And don't forget to get in touch with us as well, because you can do that by following us on our socials and downloading our app, right? And now let's actually very quickly get into this conversation, because we need to talk about incel culture, right? We need to talk about why exactly this is a big problem here, not just here in the United Kingdom, but in fact all over the world as well. So Hiba, why don't you sort of explain what exactly incel culture is, and basically how it works?
So, incel culture, in my opinion, is the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. Like, of all the dumbness, of all the stupid things men have created, incel culture is definitely up there on top of the list of things that should just
Yeah.
not. So, incel culture, it's basically like men who are involuntarily celibate, who basically believe that the world owes them, and who think, that women don't want to have sex with them. And it means that, like, it's like an alt-right movement that thinks that, like, basically believe that women owe them sex.
Yeah.
Which is completely a ridiculous notion, and it's just disgusting. And I feel like it just creates a sense of entitlement. It's like it's basically you're an entitled brat who's crying about not having sex.
Exactly. Yeah. So that is just like one of the aspects for it, right? Because a lot of these people who are involved in this instant culture tend to look down on women, and they tend to think that women are submissive, and they tend to view women more as objects than actual human beings, right?
Yeah.
And this is like one of the biggest problems that are there, because in a way they're actually endorsing patriarchy, they're endorsing misogyny, and that is one of the biggest problems that we're having. Because even if you hate the feminist movement and you're not a feminist yourself, it still has a lot of impact on the rest of the society, right? Because these men sort of think they're so entitled to tell what women should be doing, who women should be with, and what kind of decisions that women make. And especially if a woman rejects them, they tend to take that very badly, and tend to think that it's okay to murder a woman, to kill a woman, and even sometimes rape a woman. And that is just horrifying, right? Because rape in itself is something so traumatizing. Now I feel like I need to talk about this, but I really love the show Law and Order Special Victims Unit, right? Because they constantly talk about all of these, they talk about cases of sexual abuse, sexual assault, rape, and they bring a lot of focus onto these victims, right?
Yeah.
And in this show, I've seen so many instances where men think they're so entitled to do this, or even when they've committed sexual assault, they think, oh, you know what, like they totally deserved it, they had it coming, which is like the worst thing to do, because no one deserves to be traumatized that way. It's absolutely horrifying, right? And so incel culture is in fact linked to a lot of mass shootings around the world. And this is because a lot of these men think it's okay to shoot someone, to kill someone, simply because they don't necessarily agree with their thoughts and opinions. But also, secondly, because they think that they have a certain sense of power, they have a certain sense of entitlement that will actually make it okay for them to do whatever it is that they're doing.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
It's not just that, it's also perpetuating the notion, you could bring to focus so many, like, there are so much instances and cases of violence against women in the world, and the idea of incels are just perpetuating that notion, and they're only just adding fuel to the fire. And you have to realize these are like young men, like it's not older, like millennial types. No, these are young men. It's like a recruitment thing, and it's growing and growing, and it really needs to just end. Just needs to die.
Yeah, it's basically like some form of sick cult that essentially like you said, perpetuates violence against women, and think it's okay to treat women that way, right? And given the fact that it's not like women already don't go through enough violence, we definitely don't need an additional incel culture and incel cult that will essentially make that much worse, right? So when it comes to shooting, it's not just one issue, but it's in fact a lot of of issues, and they're all linked, right? Because incel culture, it starts with social media, because you get to express your thoughts, you get to express that sort of negativity, that sort of the way you see women, that you get to express through social media. And so then social media sort of becomes a space where you can express this violence, right? And then that leads to you actually wanting to act out on that violence that you constantly post about on your social media, and then eventually it leads to a shooting. So it's honestly not like rocket science. It's pretty much simple. We just need to establish those links and really act on it. Yeah,
You are absolutely right. Yeah, I think it's like, some social media sites, Reddit, and like Reddit, essentially, they're
yeah.
not as regulated as you might think. And so you'll find a lot of subreddit pages where there's just like mountains and mountains of violence and like very disturbing conversations.
Exactly. That's so true. Yeah. However, it's time for us to actually head out of here. But don't worry, because Jamie will be on the chat trap next, and she will keep you company all the way until 12 p.m. So make sure you do that. And I honestly hope you have a good day, and I hope you're more updated about the news, and you make sure you take steps to keep yourself safe. And I hope you have a good day.
Yeah. Also, yeah, exactly what Sarah said. Yeah.
All right, and now we're gonna head out of here. So bye, guys. We hope you have an absolutely amazing time.
Bye.